Megumi could have been the strongest special grade ever, but the allegations of the potential man is entirely true, we can't deny it. It all started when Gojo said he could reach his power level and kill a 6 eyes limitless user. But with Sukuna coming into play, we never got to see a fully realized Megumi. So what would it look like? How strong is Megumi if he mastered 10 Shadows, Domain Expansion, and Mahoraga? Well, before losing his body, Megumi's power level would be a grade 1 sorcerer. His 10 Shadows is an S rank curse technique compared to Limitless, and the king acknowledged it as early as chapter 9. This is because rather than using common talismans, his technique is more practical, where he could fight close quarters with his Shikigami unlike others. Sukuna believed Megumi could have defeated the special grade finger bearer on his own instead of running away like a pussy. And that's a common occurrence because this dude is called 007 for all the wrong reasons. My guy was the foster son of the strongest sorcerer in modern times. Like, scratch that. Gojo was the greatest 6 eyes limitless user in the history of the clan, and he was Megumi's teacher since he was 6 years old, yet the dude still became a bum?
Bro, I'm really about to get your pickle chin that boy. Hey, go ahead, come here, that boy.
And it's not like he didn't have the talent to achieve Gojo's level of power, since his sensei tells him he could rival it. Even Yuji, Takaba, and Higuruma became as strong as them within only a few months. Like my man Gojo said, 80% of a sorcerer's power comes from genetics, yet Megumi is blessed even in that aspect being Toji's son. The 10 Shadows was worth so much that the Zenin clan paid 10 million yen to Toji to buy Megumi, so he could become the leader of the clan one day. And from my calculations, let me just check, that's around $50,000. Wait, my man Toji sold it some for 50 bags, is that it? He flopped his potential there too. So we all joke around that Megumi has no hands, no black flash feats, and a shitty mentality that stops him from mastering the 10 Shadows with 10 years of experience. Even freaking Nobara managed to do a black flash, yet this guy didn't. And we all know that even hitting one of these things means that your understanding of curse energy compared to someone that hasn't is like a gap between heaven and earth. But there is more to this technique than what meets the eye. Gojo stated 400 years ago, the heads of both their clans fought each other to death. 6 Eyes and Limitless versed the 10 Shadows technique and ended up in a draw, proving that Megumi had the potential to rival even Gojo at some point. But as Megumi theorized, the Zenin clan head must have summoned Mahoraga at the end of the battle, who must have killed both of them during the ritual. This is a typical loser's mentality, since he summons the damn thing at every major inconvenience. Imagine something's out of stock in the store he wants to buy, man's gonna summon Mahoraga. Imagine the girl rejects him on a date, summon Mahoraga. Imagine his internet's down for 2 minutes, summon Mahoraga, bruh. I'm joking. But let's be serious. The whole lesson Gojo taught him in the baseball match, for example, Megumi hit the bunt instead of going for a home run, which means he always resorts to sacrificing himself and not acting selfish to be the main protagonist. Gojo even told Megumi that his ability and skills were higher than Yuji. However, the biggest downfall is not knowing how to bring out his best. Now, when Megumi was 6 years old and got 10 Shadows, he only received the divine dogs in the beginning and had to defeat the other Shikigami to submission in an exorcism ritual. Only then he can summon them in battle. Moreover, the summoning ritual can be performed around multiple people, but exercising the Shikigami with help from others nullifies the technique's effects once the exorcism is completed. This is why Mahoraga was never tamed, as no user in the clan's history was able to accomplish a feat that impossible. But stick around as I'll prove Megumi could if he tried. Since achieving grade 1, Megumi could only summon the divine dogs, Niue, the great serpent, the toads, rabbit escape, and arguably his strongest, Max Elephant. But over 10 years, he didn't bother getting the deer, ox, and tiger? These other Shikigami are absolutely busted. The deer outputs positive curse energy, meaning Megumi doesn't even have to learn reverse curse technique. His 10 Shadows can just do it for him. It took Gojo several years of training to master it. Hell, Yuji had to bloody cheat, but Megumi doesn't even need to do all that shit. So his true power, if he did bother to learn reverse curse technique, would give him complete hacks, as he has two options to either heal himself or use the dare. Not only that, but this dare can even cancel out the opponent's curse energy, making it a plot device against stronger sorcerers, essentially nerfing them. Mind you, Yorozu, who it was used against, scales top 10 in the verse, and it affected her severely, where we witnessed the ox that can charge in a straight line, but the more it charges, the stronger the attack gets, which scales to limitless potential. I mean, just imagine this ox on a treadmill, guys, and you slam that damn thing in Mahoraga, it would tame that bitch straight away. The ox is powerful enough to damage a Yorozu who was covered in her tough insect armor. So against a normal sorcerer, someone that isn't from the Heian era, this one Shikigami alone could straight up blast dudes. But the thing is, Megumi's techniques were done by Sukuna, who enhanced them with his curse energy reserves, which he doesn't have. So how exactly can Megumi reach special grade? Well, mastering the 10 shadows or even domain expansion would have achieved that. One other technique he has is called totality, which is the merging of Shikigami. So even if one of them dies, their power can be inherited by the other, like we see with the divine dog totality. This made it strong enough to damage even Hanami, the disaster curse that is confirmed to have the highest durability out of all of them, such as Mahito and Jogo. And remember that this dog completely kills a finger bearer special grade. All of this is achieved early on in the series before the multiple training sessions every other sorcerer did to fight Sukuna, where they all cheat to get their special grade levels of power within the 1 month time skip. And given that we know that Megumi is more talented than Yuji, who learned curse energy and all these attacks and power-ups within a few months, this dude Megumi will be able to keep up with them in speed by going Mark 3 and much more. However, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about before Sukuna took over Megumi's body. He barely scratched the surface of his own potential, as we all know. But looking back at his fight against his own dad, who was consciously fighting solely on instinct and targeting the strongest in the vicinity, he went after Megumi, showcasing that Megumi at this point of the story is stronger than Nanami, Maki, and even now Bito, who was considered to be a special grade 1. And due to his training under Maki, he was even able to match Yuji's speed and keep up with him during the fight against Awasaka, making his speed near subsonic at this point. His durability isn't that bad, as it was high enough to tank multiple hits from Three Finger Sukuna, flung across various buildings and still holding his consciousness. On top of that, he isn't that stupid either, which leads to the frustration of why he doesn't become the strongest. Megumi showcased high levels of tactical thinking when he found an exit using his divine dogs in his incomplete domain at the detention center. All the time, he recognized Hanami's branches as his weak spot, which Gojo eventually takes advantage of. He even was able to determine Awasaka's curse technique during their fight, which allowed Yuji to defeat him. However, his creativity really shined against Dagon's domain expansion, where Megumi managed to create an exit for his allies. But speaking of which, even his incomplete domain increases the potency of his shadows by 120%, along with the ability to summon multiples of the same Shikigami. Unfortunately for him, since his domain wasn't mastered, it doesn't come with a barrier and a sure hit effect. But to counter this, Megumi used his high intellect to trap Reggie into a gym and used the wall as a barrier itself. Anyone standing in his domain will have to reinforce their feet with curse energy or risk falling into the abyss and dying, because within the liquid-like shadows, there is no resistance or oxygen. So if you drop in it, you fall indefinitely. Something like that even shocked the likes of Gojo when Sukuna brought out Mahoraga. Heck, even the king himself stumbled when Megumi helped to let Yuji punch him. However, there is a major condition of Chimera Shadow Garden that can work against the sorcerer. Whilst Megumi can store items in his shadow, he must bear their weight. Reggie capitalized on this by summoning 3 cars and dropping them into the domain. This move immediately immobilized Megumi with immense pressure and destroyed his clones. But the tables turned by dropping Max Elephant, transforming their battle into a test of endurance. In fact, Reggie realized that Megumi wasn't dispelling his domain because anything within the shadows could be trapped inside after its disappearance. This means that anyone who is inside the domain would be trapped in the shadows if Megumi dies in a battle. Do you hear that right? It's not only Mahoraga, even his domain was a self-destructing weapon to guarantee to kill someone alongside him. But now it's time to unlock his full potential. Let's say the 10 shadows is still alive after Sukuna died, or Megumi trained it himself completely. What could he achieve? So just like Yuji, who learned everything so fast and became talented, the Sukuna effect would be in Megumi's body as well. In chapter 258, Kusakabe confirmed that Sukuna operated his technique in Yuji's body. That means it will remember the use of extreme special grade Jujutsu from the strongest in history. That means Megumi can learn to summon Shikigami without fully manifesting its form, just like Sukuna did against Yorozu. It would give them an unstable form, but prevent total destruction of them. The primary drawback is that the Shikigami can't operate independently from Megumi's shadow. However, it would allow him to expand its uses. Sukuna was even able to use Shikigami powers without summoning them. In chapter 233, he imitated piercing blood with elephant's water. Even Gojo complimented Sukuna when he did this, claiming his skill level is the same as his own. But given he said the same thing about Megumi, a fully realized version of himself would achieve this as well. However, his strongest Shikigami, the divine general Mahoraga, people, is on another level, capable of keeping up with Gojo and hurting him, bypassing Limitless. The ability to adapt to any curse technique that is thrown at it. And the only way to defeat Mahoraga is to exercise it before it does. The user is able to wear Mahoraga's wheel and bear the burden of adaptation themselves, meaning Megumi can bear all the risk of the attack whilst Mahoraga is adapting without being summoned, so there is no risk of him getting destroyed. But how exactly, ABD, you have to tell me, how would Megumi tame this thing? Firstly, Megumi would have to fulfill 2 conditions. Number 1, obtain all 9 Shikigami. Number 2, domain expansion. The first step for Megumi after using the ritual to tame Mahoraga would be to trap him in his domain. This would increase his 9 different Shikigamis to more than 120% that he has to adapt to. Plus, in this enclosed space, Megumi could summon his Shikigami multiple at a time. However, Megumi can make this adaptation process longer than usual, requiring more spins. How? As summoning multiple round deer will constantly nullify Mahoraga's adaptation process and curse energy. All the while, Megumi would be healing damage with round deer providing constant RCT. Mahoraga can only adapt to one technique at a time, and whilst it does that, it is pummeled to death by the 8 others. Remember, when Gojo confirmed in chapter 233 that Mahoraga took on a red, but his adaptation is gradual rather than binary of 0 to 100. This means having 9 different Shikigami using multiple powers in a domain will take it a very long time for him to adapt to each one. However, Megumi is lucky that he has a few Shikigami that can perform the one-shot attack required to finish him off. That would be Divine Dog, Max Elephant, the Tiger, and Ox. So like a Pokemon, he has to weaken its HP and use status effects on him to catch him. Niue would constantly be doing paralysis with his shock waves. The rabbits will provide constant escapes and diversion. The dogs would be landing scratches and could help in grapple attacks. The toads can provide Megumi mobility and hold Mahoraga down in place, and that will let the ox slam into him at full power. Given that it's a domain expansion, the sure hit effect will come into play to destroy Mahoraga even further. But let's say you argue it's still incomplete with the effect not active. Well, even if Mahoraga manages to kill a few Shikigami, Megumi would have a solution with totality to make them even stronger. So based on what Sukuna did with Agito, a combination of 3 Shikigami, it was pretty strong. Definitely not Gojo level strong, but good enough against Mahoraga to get the job done. What if he combined 5 of these Shikigami. That would be a bad bitch. And don't forget, we can even argue Maki can also help tame this beast. It's true that the ritual is nullified if multiple people help the 10 Shadows user to tame the Shikigami. But Maki's existence is ignored in domains, and she has no curse energy to even register for the ritual to pick up on. As a result, with Mahoraga captured, Megumi would hold the title of strongest in the modern era. This is because with a domain expansion, he could summon multiple Mahoraga in his domain, which would be any sorcerer's nightmare, as the domain would have a short hit effect, basically putting you on an instant timer to die. Mahoraga would be adapting 3 times faster if he summons, let's say, 3 of him, and on top of that, you have 9 different Shikigami powers to think about whilst they pummel you to death. It's literally impossible to win or even strategize against. Just like how Sukuna said about Todo's Boogie Woogie with Vibra Slap, for example. Simple Domain, Falling Blossom Emotion, and Hollow Wicker Basket would all be useless against Megumi's domain. Yeah, you'll get rid of the short hit effect, but these are living things attacking you. It doesn't have to be a short hit effect, right? The only anti-domain technique that would work against him is amplification or entering a domain battle, but that would mean you can't use your curse technique and you would die anyway due to the disadvantage. Or let's say you just fall into the abyss with Megumi if you even defeat him. So yeah, a fully realized Megumi could kill the likes of Gojo. But to enjoy more peak fiction, watch this video about understanding why Yuji told Sukuna to live again.